If we see the defense allocation of our Union Budget 2023, we will observe that close to 1.37 lakh crores was allocated for the pay and allowances of Army, Navy and Air Force. Close to 1.62 lakh crore was allocated for defense modernization and infrastructure development, and close to 1.38 lakh crores was allocated for defense pensions. Now, if you put a close look at the defense pension allotment and also the allotment to defense pay and allowances, you will see that the defense pension allotment is greater. Now, if we see just from the fiscal and expenditure point of view, this is a worrisome situation. And to solve this particular issue and also to modernize the recruitment process of our defense sector, Government of India on 14th of June 2022 came up with a very popular scheme which we call as Agnipath Scheme. Now, since then, this scheme has been the center of discussion, debates and a lot of widespread protests. Now, the opinions on this particular scheme are very polarized, with many people, including the ex-defense personals, ex-army officers, ex-navy officers, ex-air force officers as well, they have been criticizing this scheme and telling the government to take it back and to repeal this particular scheme. Now, what is Agnipath Scheme? Who are Agniveers? Why this scheme was launched? What are the controversies and issues surrounding the scheme? What can be the potential solutions for solving the issues and controversies? And what can be a progressive way forward? All these questions we'll be trying to answer in this particular session. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and today's topic is the Agnipath Scheme Issues and Solutions. First of all, let us understand what is this Agnipath Scheme. Now, Agnipath Scheme is basically a tour of duty scheme which is launched for recruitment of soldiers below the rank of commissioned officers in Army, Navy and Air Force. Now, this was launched in September of 2022. Now, the personals recruited through this scheme will be known as Agniveers and they will be servicing the armed forces for a tenure of 4 years. Now, annually the government plans to recruit close to 45,000 to 50,000 Agniveers, and 25% of them will be absorbed by the armed forces after their tenure is over. So only 25% of them would be retained after their tenure of 4 years. Now, this scheme basically aims to reduce the armed forces permanent force levels and also to significantly lower the defense pension bill of the government. Now, this also aims to reduce the average age profile of the armed forces and also to make the armed forces more youth oriented and more youthful. Now, as we all know that this scheme has been mired with a lot of controversies, with many people asking for its repeal. Now, in order to analyze this scheme carefully and in order to understand all the nuances, we have to understand the perspectives of 3 very important key stakeholders in this particular scheme. First is the perspective of Government of India. Second is the perspective of the defense forces. And third is the perspective of defense aspirants who have been working day and night tirelessly for getting selected in Army, Navy and Air Force. If we understand the perspective of all 3 of them, we'll be able to analyze this scheme in a better way. Now, why there is controversy in this scheme? Because the preferences, the demands, the wants, the needs of all these 3 stakeholders, they basically vary to an extent. Now, since they vary to an extent, there is dissonance which has been created. Now, because of that dissonance, there have been a lot of controversies which have erupted. If you understand the perspective of all 3 of them, then we can reach towards an amicable solution that what can be the ideal way forward. If we see the Government of India's perspective, what is the aim of Government of India? It is to ensure that there is peace and stability in the nation. It is to ensure welfare of everyone. It is to ensure that our nation remains secure. That is what the Government of India's main aim and objective is. Now, in order to achieve that objective, government would definitely want that our defense system and defense forces should be modernized. It should be more youthful. There should be more young people in our army, more young people in our navy and air force as well. Also, the government would want that their fiscal deficit should be reduced. Their expenditure should also be less so that they can allocate the money and the resources for other projects as well, for modernization of defense, for buying more equipments, for buying more tanks, for buying more jets, right? That is what the government would want. However, when we come to the question of pension of defense personals, I 110% agree that the defense personals who are sacrificing their life, going at the border, they are sacrificing their life for the benefit of the nation, for the security of the nation, they should 110% get pension from the government. There is no doubt around that. And it should be the government of India's duty to take care of them once they retire. If we see example of United States of America, in US, thousands of veterans every year commit suicide. Now, many of the veterans, that is ex-army personnel, ex-defense personnel, they are mired by drug intoxication. They are into other wrongdoings. They usually become addicts or they usually become homeless. Why? Because the government of US is not taking care of them how they should, right? But India should not go in that way. India should not go in that direction. Definitely, we should take care of our defense personnel, ex-defense personnel. However, we should not forget that the pension expenditure bill in our country is very, very high. And alongside that, even the fiscal deficit in our country is very, very high. That is why it becomes a very worrisome situation for the government if we talk about fiscal prudence. Now, of course, the government would want that the money which is saved could be used for defense modernization, could be used to buy high-tech equipments for the defense personnel, could be used to buy and purchase arms and ammunitions, and could be used to purchase high-tech equipments which can be helpful in securing our nation to the best. That is what the government of India would want after saving the money because of Agnipath scheme. So eventually we get to know that there is nothing wrong with the government of India's perspective. From their own perspective, they are definitely right. Wanting a youthful army, wanting a youthful defense force, wanting to modernize the defense force for the security of the nation, there is nothing wrong in it. But also, the government should make sure that pension of the defense personnel should not be cut. Because if a person is keeping at stake their own life for the security of the motherland, for the security of our country, they should be rewarded. And government of India should feel that it is their duty to reward them, to take care of them once they retire. So I'm again reiterating that there should be no question asked when we talk about the defense personnel pensions. Now, the second perspective is that of defense aspirants who are working very, very hard, who are working tirelessly day in and day out so that they can serve our country. They can make sure that our country is secure. For them, it is a source of pride, honor, and valor that if they get an opportunity to serve their motherland. For them, it is not just a source of employment. For them, it is a way of life. And many of those people who are defense aspirants, they are passionate about defense. That is why they are wanting to go into the defense sector. That is why they are ready to stake their own lives in order to serve the motherland. So for them, it is a thing of passion. It is not just a career option for them. Of course, everyone would want a job security. Everyone would want a good career. Everyone would want a good salary. They would also want that to some extent. But they are wanting to sacrifice their life also for protection of our country. And with that aspect, they are wanting to serve the country. Now, still in a lot of villages, in a lot of cities, in various parts of our country, joining the armed forces is considered as very sacred, is considered as something which is of prestige. But if they become Agniveer, if they go through the Agnipath scheme, they will only be serving the defense forces for 4 years. After that, they will not be having any job, they will not be having any career, and the thing for which they worked for several years, only after 4 years they would have to retire. Now, after 4 years, what they will do? There is uncertainty looming around their future, their career as well, and that is why it is very natural that they will feel insecure. They're bound to feel insecure because of such scenarios. After the 4 years, again they will have to struggle. Their education will also be low, and again they will have to struggle to find newer avenues and newer jobs, which will again put them into a very tight spot. So definitely their concern is also genuine that we would want more years of service, and we would want a permanent commission in army, or we would want a permanent commission in the defense forces. So they are also not wrong. Definitely anyone would want a long-term career in whatever sphere they are embarking upon. Everyone would want a job security. Everyone would want that once they go into a particular sector, they should not look back. Definitely they would want that after several years, there should be no uncertainty which would be surrounding them. Now coming to the third perspective, that is of the defense forces. Now they are a very, very integral and important stakeholder in this. Now what do the defense forces want? They want young people. They want modernized infrastructure. They want arms and ammunitions which are good quality, and they would want to minimize their casualties and also to ensure an all-round development of the defense sector of our country and to make the defense of our country stronger. Now, many retired defense personnel have also expressed their concerns in relation to this Agnipath scheme.
We have said very clearly in bold letters, obesity of numbers does not win you the war. You can have 20 lakh army. Today we have got 14.5 lakh, 15 lakh. You can have 20 lakh army. But if that army is not equipped properly, not trained properly, not motivated properly, not guided properly, you can never win the war.
Now, Admiral Arun Prakash, who is a former Chief of Naval Staff, has said that this scheme is only suitable for Army. This scheme is not suitable for Air Force and Navy, where more hands-on experience is required. So he says that in Navy and Air Force, more than 5 to 6 years hands-on experience is required for a person to serve Navy and Air Force properly and efficiently. That is what Admiral Arun Prakash says. Now, Lieutenant General Raj Kadyan, who is the former Vice Chief of Army Staff, says that this scheme is suitable for a low-risk organization. However, the Defence Forces are very high-risk organization, where this type of scheme is not suitable at all. Now, he says that let's say if war happens, we can't expect a person who is already looking beyond 4 years to be committed enough to lay down their life, right? And again, this perspective also seems right. Now, Major General G.D. Bakshi also says that just to save some bucks and just to save some money, we should not destroy our defense forces. Definitely, there should be a mix of youth and experience in the defense forces, but this Agniveer scheme or this Agnipath scheme is highly disruptive. That is what Major General G.D. Bakshi has to say about this particular scheme. Now, their perspective, the perspective of the ex-defense personals, ex-defense officers, their perspective to an extent also seems very genuine, because they would also want the betterment of the country, the betterment of the defense forces. So their perspective also can't be questioned. Now, in such a situation where every perspective to an extent seems right, what we should dwell upon is that what should be a progressive way forward? What should be the solutions of all these issues highlighted by all the three stakeholders? Now, what we should do to solve these issues in a way that concerns of the armed forces, the government of India, the defense aspirants, all of them, their general concerns, their genuine concerns are highlighted and solved. A way forward needs to be dwelled upon, needs to be discussed upon. Now, when we talk about the possible solutions, first of all, we have to look at the two key issues. One issue is with that of tenure. That in this Agnipath scheme, the tenure is very short, it is 4 years. And second is that what happens after the tenure? What happens to the defense personals after that 4 years? There are two key issues. And when we look towards the solution, we should look towards the solution of these two things. Now, first very important solution is that from this 4 years, we can increase the service duration to, let's say, 7 years or 8 years, so that the defense personnel who are recruited through Agnipath scheme, they get a fair bit of time for their training and they get a fair bit of service time as well. So basically, they should be serving the defense forces for close to 7-8 years, not 4 years. That is one recommendation which is given, because 4 years is too short a tenure for a person to learn also and then to apply those learnings on field as well. It is too short a tenure. 7 to 8 years is genuine and can be taken. It will also give some much needed stability to the Agniveers. And coming to the second thing, that what happens after the tenure is over. So let's say the tenure is increased to 7 to 8 years. Not just 25% should be absorbed. That limit should be increased. So first solution is that we should increase the limit from the previous 25% to 50% or 75%. So 50 to 75% of the 40,000 odd people who are recruited from this Agnipath scheme, 50 to 75% should be absorbed after the 7 to 8 years tenure. Second is that if the defense forces are not able to absorb them, what should be happening to the other people who are not absorbed? So at least government should assure one thing, that these people who were recruited as Agniveers, they would be getting assured government service or a government job after their tenure is over. Because still in villages, government job is very popular. In cities as well, it is very popular. But in villages, the charm of government job is next level. And if Agniveers are joining the armed forces and after 4 years or after, let's say, 7 to 8 years, they have to resign or they have to move away from the service, government should guarantee them at least one government job. That is another solution which can be a way forward. Also, what can be done is that these people who are not absorbed by the defense forces, so let's say the defense forces agree that we will be absorbing 50% of the personals. So from 40,000, 20,000 will be absorbed after 4 years. Now, what will happen to the other 20,000? The other 20,000 can be recruited by the CAPF. That is the Central Armed Police Forces. So which includes your CISF, BSF, CRPF, SSB, and ITBP as well. Also, they can be recruited by the various paramilitary forces which we have. Now, one advantage these forces will be having, that they will be getting the personals who have already been trained by the 3 top defense forces in our country. So these CAPF services and these paramilitary forces, they would be getting already trained personals who have been trained under rigorous circumstances and under very tough circumstances. So they'll be getting trained personally. They don't have to spend money to train them again. They just have to reorient them. They just have to spend some money and train them for, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks or 6 or 7 weeks. Just that. And they would be disciplined also. The personnel will be disciplined. They will be having the ethos of Army, Navy and Air Force. So that will help a lot. That will help the CAPF forces and the paramilitary forces to a great extent. Now here also the money will be saved, because CAPF forces, otherwise they would have to hire fresh people and they would have to spend money to train them. But here they are getting already trained personals from the 3 defense forces, right? So this is a win-win situation for the defense personals as well, for the 3 armed forces as well, Army, Navy and Air Force, and for the CAPF forces and the paramilitary forces as well. It is a win-win situation for all of them. So these solutions, if implemented, can be definitely a very positive and progressive way forward. And cumulatively, if we see, the government resources and the government's money will definitely be saved. And this will ensure that the perspective of the government, the perspective of the defense forces and the perspective of the defense aspirants, they are taken into consideration and an amicable solution is achieved. Because if we implement these reforms, definitely the government will also be benefited, the 3 defense forces would be benefited, and the defense aspirants will also be benefited. Now see, this matter is very multi-layered and complex than it looks like. A lot of people have protested because of this particular scheme. Several trains have been torched with fire. Several protests have happened, and definitely violence was also erupted because of this particular scheme. Now this is a very serious issue which needs to be addressed very, very carefully and sensitively by the government of India. Now what should happen is that Honorable Prime Minister of our country, Home Minister of our country, Defense Minister of our country, alongside the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army, Navy and Air Force, alongside the veterans, that is the ex-defense personals and the ex-defense officers, they should all sit down. They should discuss and deliberate about the possible solutions which we can take in order to remedify any controversies or any issues in this particular scheme. They should try to reach towards a consensus-oriented solution. Now, public consultation should also happen, and the opinions from broader public and also the veterans should be asked, and they should be asked that what we can do in order to make this scheme even better. Because see, all the stakeholders involved in this, their motive is same: to make our country strong, to make our country secure. Also, a very meaningful debate surrounding this issue in the Parliament of India could also be done and could also help in giving way forward to the government and what the government can do to solve this particular issue. End of the day, we should all together ensure that the security of the nation should not be compromised in any way or manner, especially at the time when 2 of our neighbors are hostile, that is Pakistan and China. Pakistan in the recent days also, in the start of June month, has been perpetrating terror in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. In 4 consecutive days, there have been 4 terror incidents in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Also, one of our hostile neighbors, that is China, in the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown, if you remember, they tried to capture our land in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh, because of which the infamous Galwan Valley clash happened, where several of our soldiers laid off their life for the security and the protection of our country. So urgent measures definitely should be taken to strengthen our defense forces, to strengthen our defense infrastructure and the defense landscape of our country overall. And also this Agniveer issue and the Agnipath Scheme issue should also be solved with the maximum high priority. Then only we would be able to have a safe and secure nation where the perspective of all the 3 key stakeholders is taken into consideration and is also solved amicably. I hope you gained some new perspective from this session. If you have any suggestions in relation to topics which we can cover in the next sessions, feel free to write in the comment section. All the very best and have a nice day.